Hi, this is Spiro with NewsBud. I'm sure that many, if not all of you, are well familiar with billionaire George Soros. Now, Soros has been in the news quite a bit as of late, and a recent hack by a group named DC Leaks has revealed more than 2,500 documents. That includes hundreds of internal documents from multiple departments of Soros' own groups, mainly the Open Society Foundations. Now, these files are grouped into different sections such as geographical region, the World Bank, and the President's Office. And the leak spans a period from 2008 to 2016. Now, let's take a look at what some of the leaks exposed. Now, the memos and documents published by DC Leaks reveal that Soros' foundation aimed to influence members of the Supreme Court to get a favorable decision in a key immigration court case, the U.S. versus Texas Supreme Court case. Now, perhaps just as shocking, the Open Society Foundation officials were directly asking the media to spin their coverage in favor of Obama and his executive action on immigration that the court case hinged upon in an effort to sway the justice's ruling. Now, this is especially concerning because some of the board members of the Open Society Foundation themselves are in fact members of the media. Now, one leaked memo highlighted the goal of expanding the U.S. electorate by at least 10 million voters through Soros' Open Society Foundations funding key progressive groups with the stated goal of attempting to influence appropriations for the U.S. Census Bureau. Other hacked memos show Soros and his foundation helped to successfully lobby the Obama administration into increasing the total number of refugees taken in by the United States annually to 100,000. Another hacked document from 2015 confirmed that Open Society last year approved $650,000 to invest in technical assistance and support for the groups at the core of the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, in a separate leaked document, it reveals that Soros' Open Society Foundation planned for a national movement to reform police forces across the country. Now, you may be asking yourself, what kind of reform was being sought? Federalization of the local police. The Open Society even held a planning meeting titled Police Reform: How to Take Advantage of the Crisis of the Moment and Drive Long-Term Institutional Change in Police Community Practice. And wouldn't you know it, the Obama administration and the Department of Justice have launched COPS, or the Community-Oriented Policing Services, detailed here in the President's Task Force on the 21st Century Policing Report. And in May of 2016, the COPS office launched Advancing the 21st Century Policing Initiative. So let me ask you, are the Soros-backed federalized police forces in your town yet? Just take a look here at the implementation map. Now, a leaked proposed strategy of the Soros Open Society Justice Initiative called for the international regulation of the internet and to give the power to decide what information is taken off of the internet and what may remain. Now, of course, wouldn't you know it, the Obama administration is set to relinquish control over the internet on September 30th at midnight, and the UN is set to take over the internet, despite Obama's promises that the UN would never take control over the internet. Now, these are just some of the examples of Soros' influence in the U.S. through his foundations. Now, the leak also shows Soros' efforts to influence the European parliamentary elections and shape the agenda of the European Union's legislative period between 2015 and 2019. So the truth is, George Soros, through his foundations, has influenced many nations around the world. Even the Hungarian Prime Minister accused Soros of being a prominent member of a circle of activists trying to undermine the European nations by supporting refugees heading to that continent from the Middle East and far beyond. Now, these democracy-promoting NGOs with feel-good names like Open Society Institute, Freedom House, and the National Endowment for Democracy fund, train, support, and mobilize opposition movements in countries that have been targeted for destabilization. Now, these color revolutions sprang up in the past decade or so and have so far successfully destabilized the governments of Ukraine, Lebanon, Georgia, and Kyrgyzstan, among others. Now, what do these revolutions all have in common? Billionaire finance oligarch George Soros, of course. Now, here is Soros on Ukraine.
George Soros, pleasure to have you on.
Same here.
First, on Ukraine, one of the things that many people recognized about you was that you, during the revolutions of 1989, funded a lot of dissident activity, civil society groups in Eastern Europe, in Poland, the Czech Republic. Are you doing similar things in Ukraine?
Well, I set up a foundation in Ukraine before Ukraine became independent of Russia. And the foundation has been functioning ever since. And it played an important part in events now.
Now, even though George Soros has foundations all over the world, Soros' influence extends far beyond his foundations. Soros also gives millions to other groups as well. Now let's take a look at his influence in Turkey, for example. In 2006, the Social Transparency Movement Association director, Ekris Kurtulus, gave an interview harshly criticizing the Turkish Economic and Social Studies Foundation and a number of other NGOs that are receiving funding from George Soros. Kurtulus claimed that there are at least 150 people and institutions under the influence of Soros in Turkey alone. Tezev is controlled by a network that is influential across the world, and this network includes Soros, the World Bank, the European Union, and the Endowment for Democracy, which is controlled by the CIA, Kurtulus stated. Now, he went on to say that Soros funded transparency organizations to fight corruption, and these countries are just a glossy front group, and they should be banned in Turkey. Now, Sibel Edmonds has recently called for the closure of these organizations.
Turkish people should demand that these NGOs funded by George Soros get shut down. The foreign ones, because they're all CIA, the foreign ones, they get their visa, they go in there because that has been a front, that has been providing front for the CIA operatives. It used to be only embassies and attachés and consulates. It's now mainly NGOs, okay?
So why are these groups being allowed to operate? Now, just last year, Russia banned Soros groups when the Russian Prosecutor General's office declared George Soros' Open Society Institute and other affiliated organizations as being undesirable groups, banning all Russian citizens and organizations from participation in any of their projects. Now, the prosecutors said that the activities of the Soros groups were a threat to the foundation of Russia's constitutional order and a threat to their national security. So when people like George Soros can send an email to the most powerful and influential people in the world, like Secretary of State or the President of the United States, or even potential presidents, giving them step-by-step instructions that some may consider orders, we have very serious issues. Then the unelected Soroses of the world become very powerful and influential themselves, and may pose national security threats in many countries, like the one that you may be sitting in right now. This is just another example of why we cannot depend on the government to solve all of our problems. Now, it really should come as no surprise that the mainstream media has a blackout on the Soros Foundation hacks and what they mean. After all, George Soros donates tens of millions of dollars to media organizations everywhere. Now, if you found this report useful, please share it. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow NewsBud on Twitter. Reporting for NewsBud, this is Spiro. Thank you.